channel. I am so glad to have you here, and I am really excited about this week's project. This is what we would call kind of like a thrift store find that we transformed using Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint. If you want to see step by step how we transformed this piece, keep watching. Hi everyone, so this is the piece in the original condition, somewhat. I have to admit we have started working on this and prepping this already, but I actually found this piece at a thrift store. And yes, I love thrifting, and I found this and it has really good lines and it's in a really great style, but unfortunately the condition wasn't all that great. For us to sell it next time around, it definitely has to look in a really good condition. So that's what we're here for, is that we can take those thrift store finds and turn it into something that's a treasure that somebody can enjoy for a lot of years to go. So this is a sideboard. We have the cupboard doors, 3 drawers down the middle and a couple drawers here. What we've done so far is we've removed the hardware and we've actually stripped the top. Now this is not solid oak, it's a veneer oak, so we were a little gentle with stripping that. We did use a chemical stripper called Easy Strip, and this works really great. It's a very nice eco-friendly alternative to stripping the furniture. We do have other videos that we can post links to showing you how to properly prep a piece and how we actually did use the stripper as well. So this piece has had that done. We've cleaned it and it is now ready for paint. But today we are going to play with milk paint. So we're using specifically Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint. We do retail this here at Next Time Around, but it is available from local retailers all around the world, and it is available online as well. So we're going to use 2 colors. We're going to paint the body of this cabinet in this color called Boxwood. I love this deep forest green color. And then because we stripped the top, we are going to use the milk paint as a stain in the typewriter color and stain the top. Now the reason we're doing that is even though we stripped the top of this, it does have a black mark that just didn't come out. And if we sand too low, we're going to go right through the veneer finish down to the substrate, and we don't even know what that looks like, and it won't look good, I can tell you that right now. So we are going to actually work with that flaw and stain it black. So we're going to be working with the milk paint both as a paint and as a stain, and that's one of the things I love about milk paint, is the versatility that you get as the artisan on being able to make it as thick or as thin as you want, because it's a powder. So I add my milk paint powder to these crown jars. For workshops, it's just easier to get at, but they do come in a Ziploc baggie like this, so that's how you get it. But again, you can put it in little jars if you want, and it's a powder and it lasts forever, like literally forever in this powdered form. And in order to mix it, you mix it with water. So I just brought a little cup of water. Now it's best if it's room temperature water or a little bit cool water as opposed to hot water. Just like baking, if you have hot water mixed with dry ingredients, it can cause clumping and you don't want that. So I just have a little scoop here. And to make the milk paint as a paint, you do roughly a 1-to-1 ratio, which means 1 part water to 1 part powder. So I'm just going to use this, this is a tablespoon scoop, and I'm going to add, let's count, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we'll probably get 10, 9, 10. Okay, so I added 10 scoops of water, and now I'm going to add 10 scoops of powder. As you saw, I just grabbed a separate scoop. I usually have a scoop for the water and a dry scoop for the powder. This is not, it doesn't have to be like leveled off perfect, so we're just gonna match that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I have a little whisk, and I am just going to stir that. So we call it a 1-to-1 ratio. Our goal is to get the consistency of essentially paint. A lot of times we say heavy table cream. So milk paint as a whole is always going to be a little bit waterier than a traditional acrylic-based paint, but you don't want it to be too watery unless you were doing that on purpose to use it as a stain. So we'll be getting into that, but in a nutshell, it's a 1-to-1 ratio water to milk paint powder for paint, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio for stain, which means 2 parts water to 1 part milk paint powder if you wanted it as a stain. And you want to just have this to get a little bit thick, or thicker, I should say. Like I said, not like water, but more like table cream. That happens when you let this sit for a few minutes. So that's what I'm gonna have happen right now. I'm gonna let this sit for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna come back and see if it's thickened up. If it's too thick, at that point in time, I'm gonna add more water, and if it's not thick enough, I'm gonna add more powder. So your goal, again, is to just get the right consistency. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. And I thought this is a great opportunity to share with you what I would call my top 5 tips to working with milk paint. Tip number 1 is, I already mentioned this one, use room temperature or cool water when mixing it with your milk paint powder. Hot water will cause clumping, and it doesn't matter whether it's soft water, hard water, well water, distilled water. We haven't had an issue anywhere where what type of water made any sort of difference. Just the temperature can cause clumping if it's too hot. So like I said, cool water works best. Number 2, if you notice this, when I was measuring my parts, I put the water in first and the powder in second. The reason for that is if I put the powder in first, it can get really stuck in the edges and the corners of your container. Having a smooth container like this helps that too, but we usually recommend adding your wet ingredients first, in this case is your water, and then your dry powder. Number 3, when you're going to paint with milk paint, it is definitely recommended that you use a natural bristle brush, which is I'm using here, also from Miss Mustard Seed, but any natural, good quality bristle brush works best. And if before you start painting it, you want to dampen that. So I just ran that under a little bit of water and just shook it out. It just helps to condition your brush before you start painting. Number 4, right? We're on to number 4, Jackie.
Well, I think you just did number 4. I think we're on to number 5.
Let's say number 5 is you are aiming to have the consistency of table cream. So you want to stir this really well, but let it sit. So that's my biggest takeaway, is let this sit for like 5 or 10 minutes, even longer, because it thickens up a bit when it's sitting. And you want to stir it every once in a while, because the pigments, they're different colors because they're found, these pigments are found naturally in the earth out of minerals and stuff, and they are different weights. So because this green has some yellow in it, yellow is a heavy pigment and it always sits to the bottom. Every once in a while you want to give this a good stir. So leave a little whisk or a paint stick, something in it to stir it every once in a while. So what we did while this was thickening up is we took all the drawers out, and again we did give this just a scuff sand, and we removed the dust with a damp cloth. This is again not stripped, only top of the whole buffet was. So these have their finish, and you can add bonding agent to your milk paint to ensure it adheres really well to shinier or pre-finished, we call it non-porous surfaces. So like another paint, or if something was stained. But if it's really dry, you can skip that, and that's what I'm doing here. So this is nothing but the milk paint powder and water. Now we'll do the little drawers. Now again, I say to stir every once in a while, so I'm just going to do that right now, give it a little bit of a stir. And I've actually mixed this paint up in an empty paint container. So you can use it in a little mason jar. Milk paint, once it's mixed with water, only lasts for maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Usually I put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. Sometimes you don't have to do that. You'll kind of play around with that, but if you just let this sit out for a long period of time uncovered, that's when it might start to not work as paint as much, and it starts to smell bad, because milk paint does actually have casein in it, which is the milk protein, and that's the binder that holds it all together. So that's why it's called milk paint. A lot of people ask, is milk paint called that because it's mixed with milk? Which is a really good question, but no, that's not actually why. It's called that because it contains that ingredient, casein. And these are all dovetailed, so I like to not paint them so that people can still see the craftsmanship that went into the dovetailing. You see that on both sides there? See the great dovetails? So if I don't want to paint that if I don't have to, so that anybody who opens these drawers can go, hey, those are dovetailed, but still have a nice clean line where I didn't get any paint on that edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this last drawer, and then I'm going to turn this buffet forward, and I will be right back, and we'll start painting the front of this together. We just moved the drawers a little bit out of the way, so they're still wet. We quickly flip this around. One of the things I just want to comment is you don't actually have to wear gloves when working with this paint. I'm doing that because I am actually at the store right now, and there's times when a customer needs me and I have to be able to quickly flip my gloves off, and it's just easier than me having to quickly wash my hands. So don't feel like you have to wear gloves or a mask. Again, these are all zero VOC products. Some people like to get the paint all over their hands, but sometimes it's nice to have the gloves so that when you want to take them off, you just take them off. So again, I'm just going to give my paint a stir, and I'm going to continue painting, and I'm going to start with the front of this buffet. I did put a piece of paper down on top just so I don't get any paint drips. I'm going to go right up underneath that lip and give it, again, just a good coat of paint. And as for the door, I'm just going to paint that whole flat surface, and I will be painting the outside edge too. You can paint the hardware too. I just want to let you know that as an option. If you felt like you didn't like the color of it, you can paint it. I am going to just go and do this edge, and again, I'm going to continue to paint. So we'll pause the camera, I'm going to keep doing that, wipe off those hinges, and then we'll be right back, so we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we just finished doing one coat of paint around this entire piece, except for the trim piece at the very bottom. We noticed that it was missing a little bit of veneer, so we wanted to do it right and add a little bit of wood filler. So we're letting that dry, we're going to give it a little bit of a sand, and then we will paint that bottom skirt piece tomorrow. So I just wanted to let you know that out of the original 10 scoops of water and 10 scoops of milk paint powder, we still have paint left. So we definitely have enough to do the entire bottom. I just finished rinsing out my brush. Let this dry overnight. Tomorrow we'll sand that, again paint that, and then we will be back. You can see it's almost dry. So we did this last door, or this door last, so it's the little bit blotchy still, but other than that, most of it's dry. So like I said, it dries super fast. So we are done for the day, so we are going to finish this piece tomorrow. So see you soon. Okay guys, so we have put one coat of paint on this entire piece, all the drawer fronts, we have them kind of laying around. We actually did that yesterday, so it's just, I just did the bottom now though, so it's still drying. We did this entire piece with those 10 scoops of milk paint powder. I have just a little bit left in the jar, but I think I'm still going to do an entire second coat. I have to say you probably don't have to do that, but because we are painting this to sell, we want to make sure that we have that extra coat just for extra durability on there and to even out any color variations that we have had from it sitting for just a little bit. So that's happening right now, and now we're going to do the top. So I was talking earlier in the video how with milk paint you can use it as a paint or you can use it as a stain. And in this video we're going to be doing both. So when you use it as a paint, it's 1 part milk paint powder to 1 part water. But when you use it as a stain, you're going to do 1 part milk paint powder to 3 parts of water, depending on how dark you want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, we start with our wet first. I'm going to add, I think I'll start with at least 4 scoops of water. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I'll probably make it 5. Let's do 5 scoops of water. I'm just going to set that over there. And then I will do just the 2 scoops of powder. So I guess in this case it's 2.5. And again, they don't have to be level scoops. 2. So definitely when you're mixing the milk paint up as a stain, it's going to be waterier, just like it would be if it was a stain. So same as before, we do want this to sit for just a few minutes for it to, again, it's not going to thicken up too much, but we want all of the grit to have actually reconstituted down with water. Just let this sit maybe for like 3 or 4 minutes, stirring it pretty much the entire time. So you didn't have to watch that. I'm now using, again, a natural bristle brush. These are called boar bristles. So this one happens to be black. And this is super easy to do. So we stripped the top of this down. So this is a veneer. So when you are stripping veneer, you do want to be a little careful because you can't sand too far down, because depending on the thickness of the veneer, it may not be super thick, and you could easily sand too far down and go right through this top veneer piece to the substrate, which again does not look good because it will not take the stain the same way. Now if the top is really damaged, then you can actually remove the veneer and just work with the wood underneath, which in a lot of cases is still a hard wood. Sometimes it's even better than the veneer, but back in the day they didn't think so, so it's just a matter of opinion on that. There are some little air bubbles that you might be able to see right now, but in the milk paint that doesn't matter. They will be sanded out because we always give it, our milk paint, a sanding with like a really good high grit sandpaper, like a 500 grit sandpaper, a polishing sandpaper, just to give it a nice buttery smooth finish. So I will be doing that to the entire piece, the painted part and the stained part. So now that I have the entire top having a coat on it, I am going to go from one end back to the other end just to even out any of the stain. Okay, and now I just have to do the edges. Okay, I'm just going to do this last little edge, let this dry, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and what we've done is we ended up applying 2 full coats of paint to the bottom section and 2 coats of stain to the top. We finished that yesterday, so it's dry. Like I said, this dries super fast, but it's definitely been drying overnight. And when you work with milk paint, when it dries, it actually feels a little rough. Don't get worried about that. That's really normal because it does require a light sanding. But there's an easy trick, because in order to seal milk paint, you can do it either with furniture wax or you can do it with hemp oil. And when you do it with hemp oil, you can actually kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because you can apply the hemp oil, then sand, which minimizes dust, and then wipe that off and you're good to go. And that's what we're going to do today. So I prefer using the hemp oil over wax in most cases. 1, it's so much easier to do, and 2, when the hemp oil is completely dry, you can paint over it again. Unlike a wax surface that if you ever wanted to change the color, you would actually have to remove that wax with mineral spirits or some sort of solvent, and that's always a little bit more of a tedious task. So I definitely go with hemp oil most of the time. You can also wax on top of hemp oil should you want to do that too, but we're going to go with a very simple, easy process. I poured a little bit in just a little cup over here, and I'm using a very inexpensive chip brush to apply this. And I'm going to do the top first for you. So we are just going to brush on our hemp oil. We want to cover the surface as evenly as we can. And actually, can you see that on the camera, just how dark the paint ends up going? So we find that when the paint dries, it's a little bit of a muted version of what it will look like when we apply the hemp oil. So I'm going to work a little bit on the top here with you, and then maybe do a drawer or so, just so you can see the difference in color. And then we'll finish off the rest and then show you the end result. And then what you use is a super fine grit sandpaper. Okay, so this is a 600 grit. Now this one is black because it is waterproof. I prefer that for when I want to sand the hemp oil. So now I'm just going to fold this in half, try to get everything out of the way, and I am going to give this a sanding. So that piece has been sanded. Now I'm going to take some of my shop cloths, and I am just going to wipe off that oil. And this is, again, because I sanded it with the oil, I don't have that dust getting in the air. So now I have a super buttery, soft, smooth finish that's been sealed for durability and protection, and again, it deepened the black on top of this. So now I'm going to do one of the drawers, just to show you what the difference looks like. So I'll grab this middle one, and again, applying a coat of the hemp oil. So do you see the difference in the color? It just deepens that green. If I take my sandpaper, I can actually use the same sandpaper. And now I will just remove that hemp oil. And look at the deepness. I'll push that back in so you can see. So, look at, isn't it gorgeous? Love it! Okay, so we're gonna finish applying hemp oil to the base of this, sand it all down, and then we'll be back and show you the end result. Ta-da! It's finished! I hope you guys like the end result as much as we do. I am just so thrilled. One of the things that we were able to do is keep the original hardware. It was a gold hardware, but really worn. So we just spray painted that in a matte finish black spray paint. We took that outside, sprayed the hardware, put it on. So this is all the original hardware, and again, I just wish you could feel how smooth of a feeling this gets when you work with the milk paint. So this is a durable product, and again, a little bit more of a natural product, how people used to paint with paint years and years ago. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed this project, and we love having you with us. If you want to continue seeing videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then ding that lovely little bell so you get notifications when we post another video. Talk to you later and see you soon.